Hello again, everybody. Welcome into Gamecock Central Radio. Emerson Phillips joined by Ben Carlisle from BleedTechBlue.com. He covers Louisiana Tech football, and he's here today on GCR to give us the Louisiana Tech perspective on this Saturday's ball game. 3:30 kickoff at Williams-Brice. It'll be on the SEC network. And, Ben, I'll be honest with you. I've been telling people all week that I felt like the trap game all year for South Carolina would be Louisiana Tech because this is a good program, won 9 games a year ago, and had that prolific offense a year ago that set records, Ben, but I understand you got some new pieces in place on offense this year.
Yeah, there are a lot of new pieces for Louisiana Tech, like you mentioned, after a 9-win season a year ago. Louisiana Tech has actually won 9 games the last 3 years under fifth-year head coach Skip Holtz, who is definitely a familiar name up in you guys' territory up there in Columbia. But, yeah, Tech has had a lot of guys to replace offensively. Gone is fifth-year senior quarterback Ryan Higgins. Gone are 2 NFL receivers in Carlos Henderson and Trent Taylor. They're playing for the Broncos and the 49ers, respectively. But, those 3 are obviously what made the Tech offense go a year ago. Tech's breaking in a new quarterback, redshirt sophomore Jamar Smith. He'll be making his 5th start Saturday afternoon for the Bulldogs. Coming into the 2017 season, he made 1 start a year ago. On the road at another SEC opponent in Arkansas. He performed very well. Tech ended up dropping that ball game 21-20. But Jamar's definitely coming into his own. When you look at last week, he probably played the best game of his young Bulldog career. He was 22 of 39, 306 yards passing with a touchdown and 1 interception for the Bulldogs. He definitely highlights a young Tech offense that has a lot of talent. When you look at the running back position, Jared Kraft is back for his senior season after running for 1,000 yards a year ago. A little scat back, number 6, Boston Scott's also a senior for the Bulldogs. Him and Kraft make up a really good duo for Coach Skip Holtz, whether it's catching the ball out of the backfield or running it between the tackles. Shifting a little bit to the offensive wide receiver spot, Tech, they got a lot of youth at the receiver spot. Not a ton of experience out there. Tulane transfer Teddy Veal is probably the name to watch. He shifted inside to the slot last week against Western Kentucky and collected 9 catches for 78 yards. He's definitely looking like he's going to be the favorite of Jamar Smith going forward. Another name to watch at the receiver spot is Rasheed Bonnet. He's a smaller receiver. Probably 6'1", 185, but he can really get down the football field. He had 3 catches for 140 yards a week ago against Western Kentucky that included an 87-yard touchdown catch.
So both teams come in 2-1, and Ben, it seems to me like both teams are on completely different emotional levels right now. The Gamecocks dropped a heartbreaker last Saturday against Kentucky, a game that Carolina really needed to win. It was their home opener, chance to go to 2-0 in the SEC. The University had a blackout for this game, and the Gamecocks got whipped by Kentucky. And, folks have been feeling the hangover, I think, all week here in Columbia. But for Louisiana Tech, also 2-1 on the year. They went on the road and beat Western Kentucky last week. I know that's been a big opponent for the Bulldogs in recent years, and not only a big game for Jamar Smith to win this game on the road, but he led the late drive after Jalen Ferguson got his 2nd sack of the game that got Tech the football back with 1:55 left. Smith led the 8-play, 55-yard drive that led to the game-winning field goal with 2 seconds left. So I got to believe that's an emotional win for Louisiana Tech.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely an emotional win for the Bulldogs. It's a young football team, only 10 seniors on the 2-deep on either side of the football, so it's a team really looking to find an identity. Folks here in Ruston, Louisiana are really hoping that allows the offense to really take a step forward. Rewind back a little ways to Mississippi State the week before. One of the bigger games that Tech's had in Ruston on their home field. Mississippi State really whipped the Bulldogs through 4 quarters for a 57-21 victory for Mississippi State. So there were a lot of questions heading into Western Kentucky, but I think, the young Bulldogs really answered the bell. Like you said, it's a rivalry game with Western Kentucky that's really developed over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
And folks in Ruston are really encouraged after what they saw last week.
Talking with Ben Carlisle from our Rivals Network partner with Louisiana Tech. It's BleedTechBlue.com. He's bringing us the Bulldogs perspective this week here on Gamecock Central Radio. Ben, with Skip Holtz coming back into Columbia, I got to believe this game carries added significance for him. I figure he will share that with his football team. And it may be that Louisiana Tech, is a little bit more amped up for this game than they might otherwise be. Plus, you factor in the opportunity for a program like Louisiana Tech to score a victory over an SEC team on the road. I'm telling you, Skip Holtz is telling his football team this week that they can come into Columbia and win because the Gamecocks are licking their wounds. Skip Holtz knows this town. He knows this fan base. And he knows the program. Even though it's changed in the years that he's been gone, Skip Holtz knows Gamecock football. So I think I fully anticipate Louisiana Tech being ready to play, and I think they're going to come in here to win on Saturday.
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, Skip Holtz mentioned in his weekly press conference Tuesday that it'll be his first time back in Columbia since he left after serving as an assistant coach under his dad. I know he's excited to get back, just kind of see how the whole town's developed. It's a place that means a lot to him and his family, but his Bulldogs, he mentioned they're going to come in hungry. They're looking to make a statement. Like I mentioned earlier, after such a tough loss against Mississippi State, a game that, they weren't in the game much after the first quarter. So they're looking to make a statement, maybe possibly pick up a big road victory against a South Carolina team, that's, not one of the premier programs in the SEC right now, but a team that's definitely on the upswing as well.
Yeah, that's what a lot of folks thought until the Gamecocks laid that egg against Kentucky last Saturday night. And I think that's left a lot of people wondering, how good this Gamecock football team can be here in 2017. Emerson Phillips with Ben Carlisle from BleedTechBlue.com here on Gamecock Central Radio. We invite you to download the Gamecock Central Radio app. We've got this free phone app that allows you to listen to our podcast on your cell phone or mobile device. You can get the app on the App Store and on Google Play. Subscribe to our podcast. Search for Gamecock Central Radio. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, and other popular services, or just visit radio.GamecockCentral.com. And we want you to call into the Gamecock Central hotline. We've set up this new phone line that allows you to call in and be a part of our podcast. The phone number is 803-497-9058. Gamecock Central hotline number again, 803-497-9058. We will play a recording of your voice on a future edition of Gamecock Central Radio. So get involved on the Gamecock Central hotline. Ben, talk about Louisiana Tech. What style of play, offensively, what are they doing on offense, and defensively, what kind of scheme are they running? What do they bring to the table?
Offensively, Skip Holtz is running, they're running 4 or 5 wide receiver sets, I'd say probably 90% of the time. They're looking to really spread some teams out. I know I mentioned earlier that, the receivers don't have a lot of experience, but one thing about the receiver group is they definitely have a lot of talent. They can run about 10 deep. I think you'll see Tech really spread it out, try to open up some running lanes in the run game, try to get Jared Kraft, Boston Scott into some space. Early on, Jamar Smith's had a little difficulty really getting through his reads, so I expect Holtz to, get him some easier passes early on, try to really allow him to settle into a rhythm. But offensively, Tech, they're looking to still play that high-powered, up-tempo offense. Shifting over to the defensive side of the ball, defensive coordinator Blake Baker's in his third year at the helm for the Bulldogs. They'll run a 4-2-5 scheme. They'll have three safeties on the field, premier pass rusher in Jalen Ferguson. It's a defensive unit that really struggled to defend the pass a year ago, ranking, I think, 117th in the country, giving up 277 yards a game last year. So it's a unit that they got a lot to prove in 2017, and to this point, they've done very well. They're giving up just 204 yards a game. At the cornerback position, there's a lot of inexperience. You'll see a sophomore, Aaron Roberson. He'll be making his second career start on Saturday in South Carolina. And then true freshman Amik Robertson actually absolutely is the prize of the 2017 recruiting class when Tech was able to land him over LSU and Texas on signing day. He has been outstanding for the Bulldogs thus far. He's really taken away one side of the field. I know Coach Holtz has said he's one of the best true freshmen he's ever been around. But it's still a secondary that has their issues. It'll be interesting to see how the Bulldog linebackers are able to defend Hayden Hurst, the big tight end from South Carolina, as Tech's really struggled to defend tight ends over the middle.
Okay, so that brings us to my next point. Compounding problems with the Gamecocks' loss to Kentucky last week is the fact that the Gamecocks lost 2 key players on offense. Debo Samuel probably the best return man in college football this year and an outstanding wide receiver for South Carolina who had scored 12 touchdowns in his last 6 games. He led the SEC in TDs until he was hurt in the fourth quarter of the loss to Kentucky on Saturday. So fractured leg for Deebo Samuel, and he's obviously out this week. He's out for the foreseeable future. He may not play again this year. So there's questions for the Gamecocks, Ben, on who's going to be the big playmaker. The Gamecocks feel like they've still got some talent at wide receiver and a good stable of running backs. And, Hayden Hurst was preseason first-team All-SEC, but he has not been heavily involved this year because everything's gone to Deebo Samuel. Deebo has made big play after big play, and he's not going to play on Saturday. And furthermore, Gamecock starting offensive lineman, another preseason All-SEC pick, Zach Bailey from Summerville, South Carolina, out for this week's game as well with a high ankle sprain, and he was, the Gamecocks' top offensive lineman coming into the year. So how healthy is Louisiana Tech? The Gamecocks are banged up right now.
From a health standpoint, last week starting left guard, O'Shea Dugas, he's been a 3-year starter ever since he walked on campus. He left the game with an undisclosed injury. Might have been a concussion. I'd say it's questionable Saturday. If he is out for the Bulldogs, that's a huge loss. Tech's had some issues on the right side of the offensive line. So if they do have to shift some things around, that could spell some problems for the Bulldogs. The receiver spot, Alfred Smith, he's a slot receiver. He's had minimal involvement thus far. He's had a little knee injury. He's missed the last 2 weeks, but I think we'll see him back on Saturday. Outside of that, the Bulldogs are fairly healthy coming into this game, which is good from their standpoint. Anytime you're going up to an SEC program, you want to have all your bullets that you have to offer so you're firing on all cylinders.
Talking with Ben Carlisle from BleedTechBlue.com, bringing us the Louisiana Tech perspective this week here on Gamecock Central Radio. It'll be the 6th meeting all time between the Gamecocks and Louisiana Tech. These two teams met 5 years in a row back in the early 90s. They tied in 91, and then Carolina won 4 straight through 1995. So the 6th meeting coming up on Saturday, and these two teams have not met since 1995. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Ben, we appreciate your time today. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Ben Carlisle from BleedTechBlue.com. That's our Louisiana Tech partner on the Rivals Network. So that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Gamecock Central Radio. Again, we got a 3:30 kickoff Saturday at Williams-Brice. If you're not making it to the game, you can watch on the SEC Network. And for Ben Carlisle, I'm Emerson Phillips. Thanks for being with us on GCR.